Today we have the new Ancient Forces deck, or rather, the old Ancient Forces deck, which has been unhit on the upcoming limit list. However, we're doing something a little bit different, and we are running it with no copies of the signature boss monster Ancient Arise Dragon, instead opting purely for Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius for our top end. This video was suggested and sponsored by Draco Kid. Members on YouTube and subscribers on Twitch are able to send me suggestions for videos, and I will do my best to make them. Running Dragius as your boss monster does have several obvious benefits, including clearing set 3 boards, but also it actually helps you play through Widespread Ruin. Ancient Arise Dragon will get boosted to 3000 and always die, but if you pair Dragius with a Burning Blaze Dragon or a Clear Ice Dragon, the skill will boost them above 2500, keeping your Dragius safe from the opponent's back row. As for the specifics of this build, I took a ton of inspiration from the Goha Rush Festival's winners Harpy list. In their own article, they mention how similar Ancient Forces and Hysteric Force are. You run a ton of 1 tribute monsters and then boost them to 2600. And this helps you avoid bricking as much as other decks which are running 6 or 7 level 7 plus monsters. And since we're running the 1 tribute monsters instead of 2 tribute monsters, there is room for more spell and trap cards. For example, multiple copies of Talismanic Seal Array, which help you stay low to the ground. Even if you don't draw a single tribute monster, a Talismanic Seal Array can often reduce an opponent's boss monster below 1000 attack. And that means your regular guys like Crawling Torso, Piercing Samurai, or Dragorite are going to be able to get over them. Piercing Samurai pairs with Dragius as another way to smash through set 3 boards. And when paired with Speedy Performer to buff it up, you're able to get some real serious piercing damage. Speedy Performer is a great inclusion in any deck that is running 1 tribute monsters. The 400 attack points seem like a liability, but if you're able to tribute it off, it's not that bad, especially when your other low-level monsters are good recipients. We are running the Crawling Torso engine over copies of additional low-level dragons, such as the Winged Dragon Guardian of the Fortress, and this is mostly as insurance for the Royal Level matchup. We need level 1 monsters like this in order to protect ourselves from heavy metal. And since we are on some level 7 monsters, the extra cards won't hurt. Shield and Sword and Widespread Ruin are both obvious inclusions, so the final card to go over is Ghost Cyclone. A lot of players would probably be on Dragon's Inferno, but I actually find the archetypal spell trap removal to be quite bad. If I'm not on Ghost Cyclone or Hammer Crush Deal, I will often choose just to not run any spell trap removal at all. Being able to filter your spell cards into additional monsters is very important. And this deck is going to be able to do it thanks to the Talismanic Seal Array. In our first game against Manarchist, we open up with 3 Speedy Performers and decide to just set them all face down, keeping the Clear Ice Dragon for later, though it is actually pretty fair to say that setting the Clear Ice would have been a fine play on its own. We go ahead and use the Widespread Ruin. This is because we already have a tribute monster in hand. I want to make sure we do have a monster we can tribute. And ultimately, it does pay off as we only draw a single low-level monster. Rather than bring in the Dragius, I decided to summon out 2 Clear Ice Dragons for a similar amount of damage. It'll serve me much better defensively, and having the Dragius going into the next turn should be helpful. We swing in for 4600 and pass it over. Manarchist brings out a couple of low-level monsters before summoning a Stormbolt Destroyer. Stormbolt Destroyer is going to revive a Thunder Beetle in defense mode. They throw down a card and take out one of my Clear Ice Dragons. With this, we do have what seems to be a lethal push available to us, as long as we draw the low-level monsters. We do. Unfortunately, running Ghost Cyclone comes to bite me here, as I'm unable to activate the effect and destroy that face down. Dragius comes out, we use its effect as well, and head into the battle phase. After activating Ancient Forces, Dragius swings in first in order to prevent a recital from stopping its attacks. However, Manarchist reveals Thunder Beetle boost, gaining 2600 life, and keeping them around for another turn. we swing indirectly and pass it over. All they can do is set a bunch of back row. It's our move, we use Ancient Forces, and are more or less ready to go. Dragorite comes in, we set a card, use the effect, and start swinging. They have the Widespread Ruin, but that isn't going to be enough to stop us. Dragius clears. Dragorite comes in, and a copy of the guard prevents lethal. However, Dragius still has the second attack, and we finish it. Next up, we are against Paco. We set a bunch of Dragorites face down on the first turn in order to use the Ghost Cyclone later. The idea is that they will go ahead and clear all of our Z defense monsters, so I didn't put them in attack mode since, even though it is somewhat unlikely for the opponent to actually be able to clear through 1500 bodies, I didn't want to take a bunch of damage and be in danger. We draw into a Branding Blaze Dragon, and we just clear out the opponent's board before confirming they are on Resonance. Unfortunately, they have a Shield and Sword, and getting 2 of our monsters down to 0 attack is devastating. Twin Dragon swings in, and we are already down to just 1800. We do what we can, which is summon the Clear Ice Dragon and use Talismanic Seal Array in an attempt to stall things out. As long as Paco doesn't draw a boss monster, we are able to keep the game going for another turn. We throw down our cards, and it actually does work out. They clear out our low defense monsters, but then we bring in a second Clear Ice Dragon. We're going to go ahead and wipe this board. Unfortunately, we are at just 1800. So the Dragonic Slayer is going to boost up, destroy our face down, and end the game. We get a rematch against Paco, but this time they are on Royal Rebels. They go ahead and use the Helltuning Invasion after a Ghost Cyclone wipes our face down card. Fortunately for us, it is a heavy metal instead of an invasion, so we don't take as much damage as it could have been. We play this very sloppily, but we use our protagonist powers to mill a Burning Blaze Dragon off of Dragius. This allows us to use the effect of Phoenix Dragon to get out a monster capable of clearing the heavy metal. And after this very lucky draw, we are able to push in for a huge amount of damage. Our opponent goes, they try to filter, and they summon a Doom Metal. Unable to do very much to our Dragius, we are able to summon a new Burning Blaze Dragon, activate Talismanic Seal Array, and swing in for an exact lethal. After playing with the deck, I think a couple of things stand out. Dragius does actually still come with a lot of weight in being a 2 tribute monster. And with a high count of spell and trap cards, even with the Ghost Cyclone able to draw a card, it leads to awkward hands. We have these Crawling Torsos to help with that, but the Crawling Torso engine also felt terrible. There were several games where we were just sitting around with a bunch of 0 attack monsters that weren't able to do anything. So if we were to edit this deck, I think we would probably actually go ahead and just remove this entirely and accept that the Rebel matchup is going to be very difficult. We'd also go down to a single Dragius, which allows us to run 2 Phoenix Dragons. And then in the other slots, I think we just want more just things. So Winged Dragon is a reasonable inclusion. And then we're going to pop in Essel. Essel's a card maybe we should have actually been running when we were having 2 copies of Dragius in the deck, as it's more likely to high roll into it. But Essel, in general, is going to help us set up our Talismanic Seal Arrays, and is generally a good card. So, for the last card, we could actually consider the Ancient Arise Dragon. But it doesn't actually solve the issue I was having, which is that the deck is just a little bit too awkward. Overall, I'd probably stick with Harpies. But maybe we'd just go with a Clear Ice Dragon. That way we have the same number of tributes, but an extra Phoenix Dragon, which is able to help us establish tribute boards. An extra low level, so Clear Ice can shuffle it back. And lowering the total tribute count by changing a 2 tribute into a 1 tribute. And maybe this deck would be a little bit better.